Welcome to What's Next in Emergency Management with Michael Prasad of the Center for Emergency Management Intelligence Research. This podcast highlights advocacy, research, academics, and more. I'm Christopher, an AI-generated voice used for interludes and breaks. Please note that Michael is an Amazon affiliate and may be compensated for referrals and show notes, links, and content in this podcast. CEM is a registered trademark of the International Association of Emergency Managers USA and used with authorization. This episode's special guest is Matt Green of the State of Disaster Substack podcast and book club.
Hi folks, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. Let's jump right into it. I want to mention that I'm continuing the pro bono work on U.S. national pediatric feeding challenges during disasters. You can find out more about this at bartondunant.com/pediatric-feeding. In 2026, I'll be presenting updates for this at the New Jersey Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster Biannual Conference on May 12th, and as well at the National USBC Conference on Thursday, June 4th, being held in Maryland. I also want to note that the originator of this problem statement, doctoral student Jennifer Hope Russell, just published her second article on the topic in a peer-reviewed nursing healthcare journal. You can find the link to that open source Creative Commons licensed piece at bartondunant.com/pediatric-feeding. Over at Medium, I had more articles, or what they call stories. In general, most of my pieces are paywalled for subscribers to that platform. Here's what I've written and published on Medium from late January 2026 through February of that year. The killing of Renee Good and then Alex Preddy. Their deaths were more politically impactful than you might think. The Ethics of Being Intrepid in Emergency Management and Beyond, Part 1 of a multi-part series. Is it Emergency Management? Part 1, discussing the overall core principles and practices. Is it Emergency Management? Part 2, actions and activities performed. Do they follow the principles and practices? And the U.S. Medal of Honor, what I learned from the State of the Union address last night in 2026. And I have a publication over at Medium written for emergency managers by certified emergency managers called The Lipper. If you're interested in writing and you're a CEM, please check out the details in the show notes. Compensation-wise, which I think is very important to those of us who make the time and effort to advocate for, research about, and write on emergency management topics, is via Medium's own partner program. You decide whether to paywall your own stories. We publish them in a common platform, and so far I've not seen any other emergency management publications on Medium.
Please check out Jono Hayes' podcast along with broadcaster Rob Bell and inventor Tom Pellereau. This is the Sketchplanations podcast, which covers the graphics we include with our blog posts and other content. Sometimes they cover emergency management concepts, but they are always good for basic explanations via graphic cartoons, sketches of what is being discussed as a topic. Thus, the catchphrase Sketchplanations. If you are watching the video, you are seeing Jono's sketchplanation for Nassim Nicholas Taleb's Black Swan disaster concept.
As we noted in one of our prior episodes, Substack is now beta testing television access. It's another way to get ears and now eyeballs onto content from Substack. And this feature can include our podcast now if you're a CEMIR subscriber, either free or paid. Check it out and let us know how it works.
Mike wanted me to tell you that we made an audio clip on how to access Substack TV in the last episode, so instead of going over it again, we will just include it in the show notes.
This episode's special guest is my emergency management colleague, former East Coaster, now West Coaster, Matt Green. Matt is also a certified emergency manager and has his own Substack called State of Disaster. He's got a book club and a podcast of the same name as well, too. We'll highlight Matt's podcast in the next episode, especially since I'll be a guest on it in a future episode. Matt and I meet in person at conferences. The first time was in Long Island, and this most recent time was in Louisville, Kentucky in 2025 at the IAEM-USA National Conference. The two of us had a free moment in a quieter area of the expo floor and interviewed each other for our respective podcasts. Here's Matt's portion of our joint recording answering my questions around what's next for him in emergency management. He'll probably have the full version at his podcast at a future date.
So I started State of Disaster, and I kind of got wrapped around the axle on what I wanted to call everything I was doing, and I also kind of perseverated on I really wanted it to be perfect. I really wanted it to be, a well-executed concept. And I realized that this is something I wanted to start with the book club, with the show, with the publication, with the journalism. It's something I wanted to do in January of last year, and it got to about March, and I was like, I have documents and pages, and I bought so many domains and URLs.
I've been there, done that.
I've been drafting logos, and I'm like, I just have to do it. And I gotta be honest, it was the best thing I could have done, is to just not worry about it being perfect at the start, and just iterate. I started the Disaster Discourse Book Club. I have about 200 international members.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And it's been an incredible opportunity for people to get together, and most importantly, get together with the authors of the books.
Oh, neat.
And I think that is where I am going to be focusing more in 2026, is really giving audiences access to the authors, and authors access to their audiences.
Oh, great.
And I think there's so much more than what's written on a page. There's a real discussion to be had, and instead of having a discussion about what we perceive the author may be saying, I want to give the audience the opportunity to say, hey, I was also there at that thing. Did you, because I think our field is driven by storytelling, and I think people really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the dialogue, and that's part of Disaster Discourse, as well as State of Disaster, where my show is, I have ideas for what I want to do in 2026. I have concepts. I know that I want to be like, I kind of see myself as like wanting to be like the Brian Tyler Cohen of emergency management, of really hard-hitting journalistic analysis of the legislation, of the big players, of what's happening, and also giving people a voice that classically have not had a voice in our field. Lower the barrier to entry, lower the opportunities for, get rid of those gatekeeping folks. But as much as I say that I have a desire for what I want to do and what I want to see in 2026, I want to ask my audience. I think it's more important than ever that I'm actually just engaging the people that I'm creating for, and asking what it is that they want to see.
Agile feedback loop.
That's right, and I really like what you were saying about hyperlocal, community-based emergency management. That is, I have a series coming out in January with Gregory Vigneault. He is a former wildland firefighter and academic, and he studies the intersect of complex adaptive systems. And I have been so impressed by his work that I've already brought it to my state conference.
Neat.
And I've already been applying my own theories of my experience with marketing and engagement and community discovery, and I think this is the future. And I was really pleased to find that the leadership symposium this year was focused on complex adaptive systems and the Cynefin framework and some of the things that I've been after, and I'm excited to see how this might evolve in 26.
I think I follow him on LinkedIn. And I'm trying to remember if he has a Substack yet. Or
He
not.
does. He does.
So good things for the show notes too, certainly.
Yeah. So I'll add Gregory's work to the. I'll send it over.
I just started reading him, I believe, and following him because that name sounded familiar.
Last month I had the following pieces added, some free, some paid as usual, on the CEMIR Substack. A number of cyber threat alerts from the IC3, the US FBI, and other groups. A nifty dashboarding done by Andrew Rumbach on US presidentially declared disasters. Plus cross-posting from Daniel Scott on emergency management for tribal nations, including tribal gaming. Global Shield's briefing on the annual Doomsday Clock announcement, by the way, not so good, and other global risk reporting. I recycled a piece from the Emergency Management Network called The Different Precious Metal Rules, and I connected with international crisis communication expert Philip Bormans, and am now importing his work into posts on LinkedIn into the crisis communication section of the CEMIR Substack. His post entitled We Can't Even Agree on What to Call It was posted on February 25th. And finally, for Substack writing in February of 26, an overview on the Wildland-Urban Interface, which is also known as the WUI, posted on March 1st.
And also of note at that IAEM-USA conference in Kentucky, I sat down with Nicolette Phillips and Kathy Feynman of the Domestic Preparedness Journal to record a podcast episode for their podcast. This dropped in March of 2026. I covered major topics from articles I had written or co-authored at their journal, and some of the expanded published work I did beyond that. The Domestic Preparedness Journal was the first place I started publishing emergency management content, outside of the bulletin for the IAEM-USA. It's hard to believe my article, Viewing the U.S. Election Process as an Essential Mission, was written 5 years ago now. And that article was actually updated in 2024 with good news about the process. I fear it may need a refresher or a reminder of it once again as we head into the midterm elections of 2026. The pendulum appears to be swinging once again. And over at the CEMIR, we continue to send out alerts, training opportunities, emergency management intelligence systems we find, and more in our monthly blog. You can subscribe for free via a link in the show notes. That's it, and look forward to talking to you again next episode.
This has been What's Next in Emergency Management with Michael Prasad. Mike typed in for me to say the following: please subscribe, like, or whatever it is you do for this podcast. Thank you for listening. This is the end of the audio portion of this podcast. There is a bit more music while the video credits roll.